My dear one, there is something I have been watching you carry, not from a distance, from the position of the one who has walked with you past every threshold that closed in your face, the one who stood beside you in the moments your hand reached for a handle that would not turn, the one who has been present in every hallway where you expected a door to open and found instead the stubborn refusal of a path you were certain you needed. And what I have been watching is a particular kind of ache. Yours is the ache of someone who has been counting closed doors as losses, when in fact they have been the most active evidence of my care you have ever received. You have been mourning what I was protecting you from. You have been grieving the locks that were keeping you whole, and that sound you have interpreted all this time as rejection, that quiet, final click of a door refusing to open, has been, in every instance, the sound of a hidden danger being sealed away from your life before it could reach you. Every locked door was my hand of protection. Let those words settle into a place that has been too occupied with the pain of rejection to receive them, every single one of them. Consider the opportunity that slipped through your fingers at the moment you thought you had it secured. Remember that relationship which dissolved before it could become what you imagined it would be. Picture the position that went to someone else when everything in you had prepared for it to be yours. Think of the community that did not receive you the way you hoped. Recall a path that seemed to be opening until suddenly, without warning, it wasn't anymore. All of them. I was there, not watching the doors close on you, as though I were a distant observer allowing life to happen to you, closing them deliberately with full knowledge of what waited on the other side, with full awareness of what would have reached you had the way stayed open, closing them because you are too precious to me to permit entry into a room that would have drained what I am building in you. You have been reading the story of your life upside down. Those paragraphs you kept rereading with a confused and wounded heart, the chapters titled with the names of what did not work out, those were not chapters about your failure. Those were chapters about my vigilance. Every moment you returned to in the small hours, turning them over and over, asking what was wrong with you, that this or that did not come through. Nothing was wrong with you. Something was wrong with what you wanted. Not wrong because your longing was flawed. Wrong because your longing, beautiful as it was, did not have access to the information about what that particular opportunity actually contained beneath its attractive surface. You saw the front of the door. You saw its promising presentation, the inviting appearance, the apparent rightness of what it seemed to offer. I saw what was on the other side. And what I saw in each of those instances was not something I was willing to let through to the person I am forming you to be. Here is what I want you to hear before I take you deeper. This world taught you to read a closed door as a verdict, a sentence passed on your worth, evidence that you were not chosen, not enough, not preferred, not meant for the thing you wanted. That reading is not merely inaccurate, it is the exact inverse of what was actually happening. A closed door in your life was never a verdict against you. It was a verdict for you, an opposite of abandonment, an opposite of indifference. Consider it the most active, intimate, hands-on form of involvement a father can take in the life of a child he loves. A closed door required my presence at the frame. It required me to be precisely there in that exact moment, reaching my hand out to turn the lock. Indifference does not close doors. Indifference allows every door to open. What kind of love would that be? To let you walk into rooms that were full of things designed to exhaust you, dilute you, distract you from the singular and irreplaceable calling I have woven into the deepest fabric of your life. Not a love worth the name, not the love I have for you. My love for you is specific, particular, invested, and willing to do the difficult work of refusing you what you asked for in order to protect the deeper thing you actually need. That sting of rejection you felt was real. I am not asking you to pretend otherwise. Consider how that particular letter arrived with its apologetic language, how that conversation ended with the unmistakable sound of a final boundary being drawn, how that friendship quietly withdrew its attention, how that path narrowed and narrowed until one day you understood it had effectively ended. The pain of those moments was not imagined, and I will not pretend that it was. What I will tell you is what that pain was actually doing. It was carrying information your heart could not process at the time because the pain was too loud, the disappointment too immediate, the grief of a hoped-for future collapsing too present to permit you to see what the collapse was actually about. Now, in this stillness, with the distance that time and grace have placed between you and the rawest edge of it, you are able to begin to hear what the pain was trying to say. It was saying, this one was not for you. Not because you are unworthy, because this one contains something that would have worked against the deeper thing I am building. And in the architecture of my love, what is working against your deeper becoming cannot be allowed entry into your life, regardless of how much your surface self wanted it. There is a friction you felt in those seasons that I want to name for you now, because it has been misread for a long time and it is time for you to read it correctly. You felt a resistance, a sense that something was not quite flowing, a difficulty in making the thing happen no matter how much effort you poured into it, a creeping awareness that your path was costing you more than it should have been, requiring you to push against some invisible barrier that did not lift no matter how hard you pushed. You interpreted that friction as a sign that you were failing, that you were doing it wrong, that if you were just a little more skilled, a little more disciplined, a little more persistent, the thing would yield. And so you pushed harder. You tried a different angle. You adjusted your approach. You exhausted yourself against what you believed was an obstacle you were supposed to overcome by force of will. What you did not recognize was that this friction was not an obstacle. It was a message, a redirection, a gentle, persistent signal from a father who was not going to let you break yourself against something that was never meant to be yours. Every bit of resistance you felt was me, quietly asking you to look higher rather than push harder. Look higher. That is the internal instruction the friction was always delivering. Not work more strenuously against the closed door. Not pour more of yourself into the lock that will not turn. Not wear down your spirit trying to force open a threshold that was closed with specific intention. Look higher. Lift your gaze from the door that will not yield and let your eyes adjust to the wider landscape around you, in which a different door is already beginning to come into view. One designed for you. One that will open at your approach because it was calibrated to your specific shape before you were formed. That friction you felt at the wrong door was not a failure of your strength. It was the kind correction of a father who would rather spend the effort slowing you down than watch you rush through a threshold that would have cost you what I am most committed to preserving in you: your strength, your focus, your peace, your alignment with the purpose I shaped you for before the first morning of the world. Shift the way you read rejection. That is the invitation I am placing in front of you now, not as a spiritual exercise, as a change of vision. Every rejection you experienced was never about personal failure. It was an active layer of celestial armor, a layer placed deliberately between you and something you did not have the ability to see for what it was. Consider a soldier approaching a checkpoint, reaching for a latch, and finding it held firmly in place by a hand the soldier cannot see. He does not know, cannot know, what is on the far side of the door. From his limited vantage, all he can perceive is that he wanted access and did not get it. He can choose to read that as a rebuff. He can choose to assume the gate was malfunctioning or the instructions were unclear, or the one on the other side simply did not want him. Or he can begin to consider a third possibility, that the hand holding the latch knew something he did not, that on the other side of that door lay a snare, a compromise, a situation that would have cost him more than he understood, that the hand refusing to open it was not punishing him, but keeping him alive for the battle he was actually being sent to. Shift the vision. Start reading the closed doors of your life as evidence of the unseen hand, a hand that cares too much about your outcome to let you walk into what would quietly unmake you. There is nothing in your history that has not been touched by that hand. Every rejection you have grieved has been my work on your behalf. Every door you thought you wanted and did not receive has been my refusal to let you into a room where something waited that would have gradually, subtly, imperceptibly eroded what I placed in you before the beginning of time. You did not see it coming. I saw it from the start. You could not have known. I did know. And the knowing is what allowed me to close the door at precisely the right moment, neither too early nor too late, so that the shield was placed before the attack could make contact with the soul I am preserving for a purpose the world has not yet seen and cannot shake once it is revealed. I want to slow down now and take you into the specific rooms you did not enter, not to torment you with the question of what might have been, quite the opposite, to show you what was there, to draw back the curtain on the thing you could not see at the time, so that you can begin to understand in your bones what you have only, until now, been willing to entertain as a theory. Consider the door that closed on that job you wanted, with everything in you. The one whose rejection letter arrived with that polite final paragraph you read 3 times before you could fully accept it. That room was not what it appeared to be. On the surface, the position looked like a next right step, a reasonable opportunity, an obvious progression. Underneath, that role carried a specific set of pressures that would have slowly and quietly reshaped you into a version of yourself you would have struggled to recognize. Its environment was not neutral. It was forming people into patterns of speech, patterns of thought, patterns of valuation that did not align with what I am forming in you. A year in, 2 years in, 5 years in, that slow reshaping would have done its work. You would not have noticed it happening in any single moment. You would have noticed it only in retrospect, looking back at the person you used to be and wondering how the distance between you became so large. I saw that reshaping preparing to begin, and I closed the door. For you, for what I am building in you, for the person you are supposed to become and cannot become from inside a room that is quietly working against the very formation. Remember that relationship which did not continue, the one whose ending still sometimes surfaces in your heart with a residue of unfinished questions. That room was not what it appeared to be either. That person was not as they presented, not because they were malicious. Human beings are often more wounded than they know, carrying patterns laid down by their own history that they have not yet done the work to recognize. Patterns that would have moved into the structure of your life together and become the shape of your days in ways that would have cost you more than you could estimate from inside the hope of the early seasons. I saw what you could not see, how they would have needed something from you that would have required you to make yourself progressively smaller, a compromise of a particular part of your interior life that would have slowly become the condition of the peace between you, a gradual trading of your most alive qualities for the stability of a bond whose stability itself depended on those qualities dimming. That trade would have happened slowly, the way such trades always happen. You would have told yourself it was worth it, and it would not have been. I saw it, and I closed the door. with a tenderness that cost you the immediate relationship and preserved the deeper you. Think of that community which did not receive you the way you hoped, the circle you were drawn to, whose edges you kept trying to find your way into, whose inside always seemed to be somewhere you were not. That space was not what you believed it to be. What you perceived as belonging was, on closer examination, a particular kind of conformity. Any affection available inside that group was contingent on presenting a certain version of yourself, contingent on adopting a certain posture toward the world, contingent on 1,000 small signals that would have required you to package yourself into a shape that fit their criteria in order to maintain the sense of being welcomed, and you would have adjusted. You would have noticed the signals and adapted to them without fully registering what you were doing, because adaptation is what humans do in social environments they want to be accepted by. That adaptation would have cost you something essential, and by the time you realized what it had cost, many years would have passed, and your path back to the unmodified you would have grown difficult to retrace. I saw the compromise waiting behind the door of that belonging, and I closed the door, not to leave you lonely, to keep you whole long enough to find the belonging that does not require you to disappear. Picture the path that seemed to be opening until it suddenly was not the one you had arranged your life around, the one you had begun to count on, the one whose withdrawal felt like the ground itself had shifted beneath you. That path led somewhere you had not been told about. Its destination was not what the direction suggested. Paths are not always what their first few steps imply. Sometimes a road that begins with promising scenery bends miles out of sight into a terrain you would not have chosen had you been able to see it in advance. I could see it. I could see where that road bent. I could see what the arrival at the end of that journey would have done to the person walking it, and I allowed the path to close before you had traveled far enough to be caught in the landscape past the bend. That closure was an intervention, not a rebuke of your direction, but a rescue from the unseen turning. You did not fail to walk it. I prevented the walking because I am more interested in where you end up than in what you imagine along the way. Every locked door was my hand of protection. Let that line repeat itself in the interior chambers, where the memory of those closures still carries weight, every one of them. Those you know about, and those you never fully registered. Every dramatic closure and every quiet one. Each rejection with a visible face behind it, and every silent refusal that simply took the form of circumstance. All of them were me. Picture a composite view of a father who would rather accept the temporary misunderstanding of his child than permit that child to walk into a room that would unmake her. And if you have spent years reading those closures as evidence against yourself, this is the hour to read them correctly. They were evidence of my presence. Consider them the most persistent, active, consistent evidence of my care that your life has ever contained. Now let me go deeper into what you could not see, because it is one thing to accept in principle that hidden dangers waited behind doors you wanted open. It is another thing to feel, specifically, what was being protected. Those dangers were not always obvious disasters. They were sometimes, more often than you might think, subtle erosions. A slow kind of damage that people do not notice until the damage is nearly complete. A gradual drift away from the thing I placed in you. An incremental dulling of a sensitivity you were meant to keep sharp. A quiet diluting of a focus that was meant to remain concentrated on the calling I have prepared for you. These are not the kinds of dangers the human eye is trained to detect. They do not come with alarms. They do not announce themselves. They operate beneath the surface of consciousness, disguised as ordinary life, wearing the face of things that seem to be merely normal developments. Only someone who sees you across the full span of your becoming, from the beginning to the ultimate horizon of who you will be, can identify the difference between what will thicken you for your purpose and what will thin you away from it. I see across that full span. And in every instance where a door you wanted would have thinned you, I closed it. A human soul's energy is finite in any given season. You know this instinctively, even if you rarely pause to consider what it means. Every ounce of attention you pour into any one thing is attention you are not pouring into something else. Whatever relational bandwidth you extend toward any one set of people is bandwidth you do not have available for others. Any spiritual focus you hold toward one pursuit is focus you cannot hold toward another simultaneously. And part of what I have been doing in every closed door of your life is managing the allocation of that finite resource, protecting what I placed in you from being dispersed across too many fronts, keeping the concentration of your essential energy undivided so that when the right threshold appears, there will be enough of you to step through it. Every door I closed was a way of preserving your supply. Every rejection I allowed to reach you was a way of keeping you from spending yourself on what would not have multiplied what I invested in you. Think of a field of seeds. If a farmer scatters seed in every direction without discernment about the quality of the soil, much of what is sown will fall on ground that cannot sustain it. Some will land on rock. Some will land among thorns. Some will be snatched up before it can take root. And a seed's energy, the life potential packed into each small shell, will have been spent on ground that could not receive it. A wise farmer does not scatter everywhere. A wise farmer directs the seed toward the soil that is ready, not because the farmer is withholding, because the farmer understands what the seed is and how much of it exists and where it will actually grow. Every closed door in your life has been that kind of direction. Not a withholding from you, but a careful guiding of what I placed in you toward the ground that can receive it, toward the opportunities, the relationships, the callings, where what you are will not be wasted but multiplied. Each door I closed was the rocky ground, the thorny patches, the fields where seed would have been consumed before it could produce a harvest. Each door that remains open, and the one still to come, are the prepared soil. I want to speak to the weariness that has been building in you from all the pushing you did at doors that were never going to open. Because there is a specific kind of tiredness that settles in a person who has spent years trying to force thresholds that were held closed by the hand of their father. It is not ordinary tiredness. It is not the clean exhaustion that comes from doing work you were designed to do. It is the particular depletion of a soul that has been fighting against its own preservation. You have been tired in a way that regular rest does not entirely address, because this exhaustion has been spiritual in nature, layered into the deeper fabric of who you are, accumulated from too many seasons of striving against a shield you could not see. Let that tiredness be heard now. Let it be acknowledged as what it actually was, not a failure of your resilience, rather the accurate and proportionate response of a soul that had been doing battle against my own protection without knowing it was my protection it was pushing against. Lay that weariness down. It is finished. Any work of forcing what was never meant to open has ended. What remains is the work of recognizing, in the present stillness, what the closures of your history have actually been doing on your behalf. There is a season you are in right now that I want to speak about directly, not to lengthen it, not to romanticize it, but to tell you the truth about what it is doing. You are in a season of stillness that feels, from the inside, like nothing is happening. Your forward motion in life has slowed, or stopped, or turned quiet in ways that make you wonder whether you have been forgotten. Doors around you are mostly closed. Doors ahead are mostly not yet in view. A particular silence of this season has a weight to it, a kind of hush that presses against you in the places where you are most accustomed to hearing the sound of things progressing. And inside this hush, a certain restlessness has begun to stir, a wondering, a quiet worry that maybe you have been set aside, that maybe the story is not actually unfolding anywhere, that maybe the movement has simply ceased. Hear me carefully. This season is not a pause. This season is not an accident of circumstance. This season is not punishment, not withdrawal, not the result of something you failed to do correctly. This season is construction, a kind that does not announce itself with the clatter of visible building, but proceeds quietly, underground, in the interior chambers where the real foundations of a life are laid. You are being fortified. This stillness you feel is not the absence of activity. It is the texture of the specific work that cannot be done while you are moving at full speed. A building up of inner walls that will need to hold the weight of a calling larger than you have yet carried. A deepening of the sensitivity required to hear the right door when it finally opens. A slow, patient refining of a strength that does not look like strength from the outside, but which will be, when the time comes, exactly what your purpose requires of you. Every structure worth building requires a stage of preparation that looks, from the outside, like nothing is happening. Foundation being dug before the walls go up. Steel being tested before it is raised into position. A site being cleared of every piece of material that does not belong to the new structure. If you watched a construction project only during its preparation phase, you would conclude the project had been abandoned. That site would appear empty. Workers would appear idle. Ground would appear to be nothing more than ground. And yet, underneath that apparent inactivity, the most essential work of the entire project would be taking place. Work that determines whether the building will stand when the weight of a full structure is eventually placed upon it. Your stillness is that preparation phase, and this quiet surrounding you is not absence. It is the sound of essential work happening beneath the surface of what anyone, including you, can currently see. What is being built in you during this season? Let me describe the specific work, because knowing what is being constructed makes the construction period bearable. You are being given a discernment you did not previously have, an ability to tell with an accuracy you did not possess before which thresholds are yours and which are not. Your old self was vulnerable to every invitation that appeared attractive on its surface. Your new self is being equipped with an inner sense that reads beneath the surface. That feels the difference between the door that is for you and the door that would compromise you. That hesitates in front of the wrong entrance, not because of external warning signs, but because of an internal knowing that has been developed precisely in this season of stillness, precisely through the long practice of living without forward momentum, precisely because the quiet has allowed a deeper listening to take root in you. This sensitivity is being layered into you moment by moment. Even in the moments when it seems nothing is occurring, you will not recognize how much of it has been given you until the day it is required. On that day, when the right door appears, you will know. You will know in a way you could not have known before. And this stillness that formed your knowing will have proved, in retrospect, to have been the most productive season of your interior life. You are also being stripped. This part is harder to hear, but it is true, and it is good. You are being stripped of external validation that you had come to rely upon for the sense of yourself that actually belongs further down. That applause you once counted on, which has grown quieter in this season, has grown quieter because I am teaching you to stand in a version of yourself that does not depend on audience response. Every recognition you use to draw from the visible signs of your life working, the titles, the progress markers, the public confirmations that things were moving in the right direction, has been muted because I am teaching you to find your ground in a recognition that does not come from any of those sources. You are learning to be yourself in silence, to know who you are when no one is watching, to carry your identity as a settled inner reality rather than a negotiated performance that requires external reinforcement to remain stable, that lesson cannot be taught while the applause is loud. It can only be taught inside the kind of quiet you are currently occupying. Silence is the classroom. There is a character development happening in you that is not possible to achieve by any other means. Character is not built in seasons of easy flow, when everything is opening and affirming and confirming. Character is built in the friction of delayed promise, in the specific disciplines of continuing to believe what you cannot yet see, in the thousand small choices to keep faith with the thing I placed in you when the world around you offers no evidence that the thing is about to come to anything. Every one of those small choices is forming muscle in the deeper person you are becoming, not the visible muscle the world approves. Rather, the inner muscle that allows a soul to bear the weight of what I have prepared for you without being broken by it, without being distorted by it, without being handed what I have prepared and then collapsing under its unfamiliar weight. Your calling's weight will be substantial. It has to find a you who has been trained in seasons of stillness, to carry weight without complaint, to hold promise without impatience, to remain grounded when the circumstances give no external reason for groundedness. That training is happening right now. It looks like nothing. It is everything. Embrace the waiting room, not as a delay you are enduring on the way to the real thing, but as the real thing in its current form. That waiting room is not outside the purpose. That waiting room is part of the purpose. Inside it, the specific kind of you who can walk into the future I have prepared is being formed. And when the door finally opens, you will not be a different version of yourself who has been standing in a hallway for too long. You will be the calibrated, tempered, discerning, unshakable version of yourself who has been prepared in these exact quiet seasons for exactly this exact threshold. Your time in the waiting room is not wasted. Your time in the waiting room is the preparation that makes the rest of the story possible. Nothing of what is happening in you now is being lost. All of it is being folded into the person who will step through when the time arrives. Sharpen your discernment in this quiet. Let the stillness teach you to hear below the surface of what things seem to be. Practice, in this unhurried season, the deeper reading of your own inner movements. What makes you feel expansive? What makes you feel narrow? What opens you? What tightens you? What corresponds to the true direction of your purpose? What carries the subtle flavor of distraction, even when it disguises itself as opportunity? These are the sensitivities you will need when the right door appears. They are being developed in you now through the repeated experience of sitting with your own interior life long enough to begin to tell the difference between its various textures. A discernment practiced in silence becomes a discernment that works in motion. This sharpness you are cultivating now will be the sharpness that recognizes the right threshold the moment it comes into view. And when it comes, you will know it not because it arrives with a dramatic announcement, but because your inner sensitivity has been tuned across these quiet months to recognize the particular resonance of what belongs to you. Now, I want to take you forward into what I am aligning you with, because the closed doors were not only about preservation, they were about preparation. They were carving the specific trajectory that leads to the specific purpose I fashioned you for before the first morning, and every closure you have experienced was an act of calibration, narrowing the direction of your life toward a calling that the wider world cannot shake once you step into it. You were not meant to have a scattered life in which any number of paths would have been equally valid. You were meant to have a precise life with a specific shape directed toward a specific contribution that only you can make. And the precision required that certain paths be closed, so that your energy, your focus, your becoming could be concentrated on the one direction that actually corresponds to the blueprint I wrote for you before you drew your first breath. The paths that remain open in your life are the ones perfectly calibrated to your unique shape. Every door that is still before you, every opportunity that has not yet manifested but will, every connection that is approaching but has not yet reached you, these are not arbitrary. They are the result of a careful narrowing, the alignment between who you are at the deepest level and the places where you will most fully live out who you are has been painstakingly drawn. Not because I did not want to give you more options, because more options would have meant less precision, and your purpose is too significant to be left to chance. It requires, by its nature, a deliberate narrowing, a process by which the many possibilities are reduced, one by one, through the closing of doors that do not serve the deeper design, until what remains is the narrow path that leads exactly where you are meant to go. Look back at the pattern. If you let yourself see it from the vantage point I am offering, the pattern will come into view. Disappointments in one direction preceded breakthroughs in another. Doors that closed in a particular season opened space for doors that would not have been visible if the first ones had stayed open. People who walked away made room for people who arrived with exactly what the next chapter required. The job that did not materialize freed the capacity for the unexpected work that found you. The community that did not receive you freed the attention you needed to notice the community that did. The relationship that ended created the interior space into which the right kind of connection eventually came. Every step backward, read from this angle, was a step of realignment. Every ending, read with this vision, was a beginning in disguise. And the pattern, once you begin to see it, becomes increasingly impossible to deny. Your life has been orchestrated with more care than you have given me credit for, not in spite of the hard seasons. Through them, there is a reason I have let you walk through certain disappointments before handing you certain breakthroughs. A breakthrough delivered to a soul unprepared to receive it is not a breakthrough. It is a burden, or a temptation, or a chance to be shaped by success in ways that distort who you were made to be. I have waited to deliver certain things into your life until you were ready to hold them without being changed by them into someone you were not meant to become. The disappointments that preceded those breakthroughs were preparing you to receive the breakthrough without losing yourself in it, preparing your character to bear its weight, preparing your discernment to recognize when to say yes and when to say no even after the yes is clearly granted, preparing your humility to remain grounded when the visible signs of elevation begin to arrive. These preparations could not have been shortcut. The lessons they contain required the specific seasons in which they were learned. And the breakthrough, when it finally arrives, is sustainable precisely because the years that preceded it gave you the inner architecture capable of sustaining it. Your purpose is too significant to be left to chance. Let that sentence sit in you, too significant to be the accidental product of any door that happened to open in front of you. Too weighted to be entrusted to whatever path seemed easiest in a given season. Too important to the plan I am working across the span of many lives, many generations, many interwoven stories, for it to be left exposed to the randomness of every possibility that might have presented itself. So I narrowed. I closed the doors that did not serve the weight of what I am preparing. I allowed only the specific paths that lead to the specific destination to remain available to you. This was not arbitrary limitation. It was careful calibration. The narrowing itself was the gift. Because a scattered trajectory would not have produced what I am producing in you. Only a focused one could. And I built the focus through the closing of the doors that would have scattered you. Every locked door was my hand of protection. The line returns now because you need to hear it at the moment when you are beginning to see the alignment as well as the protection. They are the same act. The closing of the wrong door is the same motion as the opening of the right one, because they are both parts of the same calibration, the same hand, the same wisdom, the same love that sees across the full span of who you are meant to become and moves with precision to bring you there, not against your will, with a love that respects your will while also knowing, at a depth your will cannot yet reach, what you are most truly asking for, underneath what you think you are asking for. Your deepest longing is for the purpose I placed in you. Every surface longing you have ever had for something that would have worked against that deeper purpose has been a secondary longing, held in place by limited information. I have been honoring the deeper one, even at the cost of the surface one, even when the cost of honoring the deeper one looked to your surface self like disappointment. Because one day you will look back and see clearly that the disappointment was the truest answer to the deepest prayer you ever prayed. There is a weight coming that your purpose will carry, a weight that requires the you who has been formed through all of this, a weight that requires the discernment you developed in the waiting room, the depth you accumulated through being stripped of easy validation, the character you built through remaining faithful when nothing in your circumstances was confirming the faithfulness, the alignment you achieved through the patient closing of paths that were not yours. Every one of these is load-bearing in the purpose you are about to step into. Every one of them was a requirement for what is coming. I did not shape you through ease, because ease does not produce what your purpose requires. I shaped you through the closures and the silences and the patient narrowings, because that is the only forge in which the particular you, capable of your particular calling, could be made. Let me describe the shape of what is ahead, not with dates, not with specifics you are not meant to have yet, with the texture of it. The texture of what is coming is different from the texture of what has been. The doors ahead are not going to require the same kind of pushing that the wrong doors seem to require. The right doors will not need to be forced. They will open the way doors open in their intended way, with ease, with a sense of alignment, with the unmistakable feeling that you were built for this exact threshold, and it was built for this exact you. You will not need to convince the right doors to let you in. They will be waiting for you, calibrated to you, designed with your specific shape in mind. The push against resistance that was the hallmark of the wrong seasons is not the hallmark of the right ones. Where I am leading you, the fit is natural. The movement is unforced. The rightness of the path is something your whole being registers the moment you stand in front of it, and you will know. You will know the difference because your discernment has been so thoroughly formed in all the friction that preceded this that the absence of friction at the right door will itself be a signal you cannot miss. You will step through with confidence, not the swagger of someone who believes they have earned their way, the quiet confidence of someone who understands that this was prepared for them, that they were prepared for this, that the fit between the person and the purpose is not the product of striving, but the product of deliberate alignment across many years of invisible work. The confidence of someone who has been loved enough to be refused what would have harmed them, someone who has been formed enough to carry what is about to be given, someone who has learned enough in the waiting rooms to recognize the right door the moment it appears and step through it without hesitation and without the tremor of self-doubt that would have characterized an earlier version of you walking through the same opening. You are not the earlier version anymore. The earlier version was shaped into the one who is now ready. The one who will walk through this door is the one I have been building for exactly this walking. Step through the doors ahead with a heart full of gratitude rather than the heavy baggage of what you are calling losses, because the baggage is not actually yours to carry. The losses were not losses in the way the surface reading of your life suggested. They were deposits, gifts, in the form of refusal. Every door I closed added something to what I was preparing in you, rather than subtracting something from what you could have had. And carrying the weight of grief for those doors into the rooms ahead would be like bringing into a wedding feast the letters of condolence written for a death that never occurred. Nothing died that was yours. What appeared to die was never yours to begin with. What was yours has been preserved, intact, for the arrival that is coming into view. Set down the baggage. Let your hands be empty when you reach the next threshold, so that they are available to receive what the next threshold is bringing. Gratitude is not a performance you owe me. It is a posture that changes the weight of your own travel. A heart full of thankfulness for the closures, even the ones that still sting slightly in memory, is a heart that has been lightened for the journey ahead. A heart that recognizes the hand behind the refusals is a heart that walks forward, trusting the hand that is now opening different doors. The trust is cumulative. The more you come to see the protection in the past closures, the more you can trust the openings that are beginning to come. And the trust, when it takes root, becomes the ground from which you step through the new thresholds without hesitation. Not because the new thresholds come with guarantees printed on their frames, but because the one who closed the wrong doors is the same one who is now opening the right ones, and you have enough history with that one to walk forward in peace. The peace I am describing is not a fragile peace. It is not the peace of someone who has been insulated from difficulty. It is the peace of someone who has walked through difficulty and come out the other side with a clearer picture of who was actually beside them through it. The peace of having been protected so many times that the protection has become, in your interior life, an unshakable premise. The premise that you are guarded. That you are not going to be allowed to walk into rooms that would destroy you. That the hand that has been closing doors for years is not about to stop closing doors for you, and that the same hand is going to open for you the doors that are actually yours at exactly the right moment, with exactly the right preparation having been completed in you. This peace is not the peace of hoping things will work out. It is the peace of knowing, from accumulated evidence, you can finally see clearly that things have been being worked out for you all along. You are exactly where you are supposed to be. I want to say that again, because it is so often dismissed by the part of you that is still reading your current circumstances through the lens of what you had hoped for by now. You are exactly where you are supposed to be, the location of your life right now, the specific set of circumstances you are inside, the particular season you are navigating, the exact combination of what has happened and what has not happened is the location I have placed you in deliberately, for reasons that are becoming clearer the longer you sit with what I am saying. You have not fallen behind any schedule that matters. You have not missed an opportunity that was actually meant for you. You have not been forgotten by any process that determines the outcome of your life. You are on time, on the specific, customized, unrepeatable timeline I built for the unfolding of your singular purpose. And the present moment, with all its apparent incompleteness, is precisely where that timeline places you right now. The love I have for you refuses to let you wander. That is a sentence that deserves a moment of dwelling. Refuses. Not a passive love that allows you to drift wherever you will. An active love. An engaged love. A love that takes the responsibility of directing your path seriously enough to intervene, that cares too much about where you end up to abstain from influencing the journey. That is willing to close doors, delay answers, redirect pathways, hold back breakthroughs, orchestrate the timing of everything for the sake of the destination I am committed to bringing you to. This is not the cool, disinterested regard of a deity who has set the universe in motion and stepped back to watch. This is the intimate, invested, hands-on involvement of a father whose love takes the form of constant participation in the trajectory of His child. The love that refuses to let you wander is the love that will not allow you to wander because it is too attached to you to let you end up anywhere other than where you are meant to be. Prepare for the abundance that is coming, not in the sense of preparing to be disappointed if it does not arrive on the timeline you expect, in the sense of allowing your heart to open to the possibility that what is coming is truly coming, and that when it comes, it will be more aligned, more sustainable, more genuinely suited to who you are than anything you had been asking for in the seasons when you were still pushing at the wrong doors. Abundance is not only about quantity. Abundance is about alignment. It is about the kind of provision in which what you receive actually fits who you are, in which the opportunity matches the calling, in which the relationships correspond to the real texture of your soul, in which the resources are calibrated to the purpose rather than scattered across things that would not know what to do with them. That kind of abundance is what is coming. And it is coming to you because you have been prepared across every closed door, across every silent season, across every patient narrowing to receive it without being undone by it. The provision that arrives when your personal desires finally align with the Father's plan is a provision that does not burden you with the maintenance of something that does not fit you. Think about how often, in human life, people receive what they asked for and discover they did not actually want it once it arrived. The request was made from a partial self, the self that was unaware of what the thing actually required, unaware of the cost of keeping it, unaware of how it would fit or fail to fit the deeper shape of their life. The provision arrived, and the person found themselves in the exhausting position of caretaking something that their soul had not actually been asking for. What I give when your inner alignment has been completed is different, given because you have become the kind of person who knows at the deepest level what you are asking for. Given because the request and the answer are now in resonance, given in a form you can actually sustain because you have been built to sustain exactly this, the delivery is not going to overwhelm you. The arrival is not going to disturb the interior life you have been so carefully forming. What is coming will feel, when it comes, like the arrival of something you already were in a way you had not fully realized until it appeared. And the gratitude that will follow that arrival will not be the forced gratitude of someone performing thankfulness because that is what is expected. It will be the uncontainable gratitude of someone who has come to understand the full scope of what they were protected from, what they were prepared for, what they have now received. That gratitude will not be heavy. It will be light. It will be a kind of joy that cannot be explained by the external details alone. It will be the joy of a soul that has come home to itself and to the one who made it. The joy of a life that fits. The joy of a purpose inhabited. The joy of knowing that nothing was wasted. Every closed door had a place. Every waiting season had a function. Every tear shed over a path that did not open had a purpose in the overall preparation. And the joy of seeing the pattern clearly, finally, is a joy that will carry you for the remainder of your days. Let me speak to a specific question that may be stirring in you now as the words settle and you begin to let the reframing take root. What about the doors that are still closed, that I have not yet opened? What about the paths still unresolved, the prayers still unanswered, the parts of your life that remain in the posture of waiting even as you come to see the rest of the pattern? They are part of the same pattern. The ones not yet resolved are being held in the same careful hand that closed the others. They are not oversights. They are not forgotten requests. They are, each of them, either still being closed for a protection you have not yet fully realized, or still being prepared to open at the moment when opening would produce what I am after. Trust the same hand. The one that can show you, in retrospect, what the closures have meant is the same one that is currently managing the thresholds still in question. You are safe there. You have always been safe there. And the resolution of what is still unresolved will come in the same rhythm that every other part of your story has come, at the moment when it produces the fullest expression of what I have been building all along. Every locked door was my hand of protection. Let this line land in you for the final time. Let it rewrite, wherever it needs to, the chapters of your history that have been read as rejection. Let it change how you tell the story of what did not work out. Let it move into the places where grief still sits over what did not happen, and let it leave there a different substance. Not the substance of loss, but the substance of recognition. Recognition of what was actually happening in every one of those moments. Recognition of who was actually at the door when it would not open. Recognition of the love that was written into every closure, into every silence, into every unfulfilled hope you have carried. The hand was mine. The love was mine. The protection was mine. And the story, in its fullness, is one of a soul being carefully brought to the very purpose it was made for, through a path that only a love like mine would have had the wisdom and patience to orchestrate. You are being brought to the light, not someday, now. The steps you have taken, even the painful ones, have been steps into increasing light. The place you are standing in right now is already closer to the full illumination of who you are meant to be than you have ever been before. Every chapter you are about to enter will be brighter than the one you left. Not because the difficulty has ended. Life does not promise an end to difficulty, but because your capacity to walk through whatever arrives has been so thoroughly built that difficulty now finds a you who is ready for it. A you who cannot be unmade by it. A you whose inner architecture has been prepared across every closed door to hold everything that comes. Step into the light. Receive what is being prepared. Know at every step that the one who has been closing and opening doors for you is the one who has loved you without interruption from before the first morning of the world, and that the unfolding chapter is going to be good. I love you with a love that refuses to let you wander. I have loved you with that love since before you existed to receive it. I will love you with it for every day of what is coming and for every day after that, across the entire span of what is eternal. No closed door has ever been a statement of anything other than this love. No open door will ever be a statement of anything other than this love. Every threshold in your life, whether you passed through it or were prevented from passing through it, has been the movement of this love making its way toward your fullest possible becoming. Receive that. Let it be the ground beneath your feet as you take the next step. And know that the step, whatever it turns out to be, is a step into the further unfolding of a story I have been writing with you, for you, through you, since before the beginning. Amen. If these words reach the place they were meant to reach, share them with someone who is mourning a door that closed in their life, someone who has been reading rejection as a verdict when it was actually protection, someone who needs to hear that every locked door was the Father's hand of protection. Type Amen in the comments if this message found you where you are. Subscribe and turn on notifications so that when the next reminder comes, the next word, that you are known, guarded, and led by a love that does not fail it, finds its way to you. You are seen. You are held. You are being led. And every door still closed is being kept by the same faithful hand that will open the right ones at the right moment. Walk in peace.